Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is officially a wrap to the 2024-2025 NBA season, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are the 2025 NBA champs. First things first, before I get into the game and talking about everything about Oklahoma City and Indiana, I just want to first thing start off by saying prayers to Tyrese Halliburton. He looked really agile. He looked really good going into this game. Made three pointers instantly. It looked like Indiana had all the momentum going to this game, but unfortunately, he went down with, I think it might be an Achilles injury. It might not. It's not officially confirmed, but it looked like an Achilles to me, where he went down non-contact injury. It looked like he was in serious pain, and he was unfortunately not able to come back in this game. So prayers to him. And shout outs to the Indiana Pacers for actually putting up a fight in this game. Like, they really had a shot to win this game, but unfortunately, just some turnovers hurt them. And obviously, shot making, a lack of playmaking ability. Their offense was really stagnant, which led to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I think was the better team going to this final series, winning this game and becoming the 2025 NBA champs. And I figured I'd show a throwback, to one of the OGs that actually played for Oklahoma City, Russell Westbrook, one of the OGs out there. So I want to shout out him for that, because he was one of my favorite players back then. He's still one of my favorite players of all time. And I became an OKC fan because of him. I left that fan base because of Russell Westbrook, man. And it sucks. Like, I still could have stayed a fan with Oklahoma City, but that was not the thing, man. My interest fell off because Russ left. I was just a big fan of them because of Russell Westbrook. And that turned out for me to be a Miami Heat fan, which was one of the worst decisions I ever made in my entire life. But I thought about it if I wanted to go back to being a fan of OKC, and I also decided no, because I'd be a bandwagon nowadays. But also, I was considering being a fan back in 2022 when they added J-Dub and Chet in the draft. But I was just saying that the Heat had such a great run, and just like Jimmy Butler was so likable in the Miami Heat, that I ultimately decided to stay with the Miami Heat. And that's going to be that for the foreseeable future until hopefully we get an expansion team, and the Heat just continue to make me feel sad about basketball. But oh, something turned on. But like I said before, congrats to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And this is a crazy day. This is actually a crazy day. The Kevin Durant trade happened when I was at work. I mean, he got traded to the Houston Rockets, which I completely forgot about watching this game, that he got traded to the Houston Rockets. Big time trade. I think it was a win for the Houston Rockets. That'll be a video for probably tomorrow or probably the next day. I'll make a video on that on a future day or so, because this is just going to be strictly focused on the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the championship and just coverage of this game. So for just the most part of this game, Indiana, I feel like they played decent in the first half. They started off pretty well when Tyrese was in the game, but then obviously Tyrese went down, and that kind of deflated the team. I feel like that deflated the team on the offensive end. I think their defense was still very crucial, especially in the first half. But then obviously the second half, things did not look very well. They kept turning over the ball. And OKC, they did not play that great this game. I think they played pretty bad. For their standards, I think they played pretty bad in this entire game, except the third quarter. I think the third quarter, they played pretty well defensively, forced a lot of turnovers on their hand. But again, the offense looked kind of rough at certain portions of the game, but their defense is always going to be the main standout with this 2025 champions. Their defense was the main reason why they were the most dominant team all season long. The fact that they had one of the highest defensive ratings in NBA history, no discussion about that. And just the big three with Chet Holmgren, who is such an impactful defender guy. And people might discredit Chet because of the offense. And don't get me wrong, I will still talk crap about Chet's offensive impact, but his defensive impact is super underrated. It is so underrated. He had 5 blocks in this game, 5 crucial blocks. And not just that, his rim protection all series long against this team that likes to go out and transition a lot is critical. It's very critical for a third-year player, technically a second-year player, to be a champion with that. Jalen Williams, who I have called overrated multiple times this entire season, has proved me wrong with scoring 40 points in his first NBA Finals in Game 5. I think him and Shea both had like some of the most points in terms of a duo like of all time, with Jordan, Pippen, and LeBron and Kyrie. And not mind, this went to 7 games as well, but still, it's not like he didn't show up. He still averaged over 23 points per game. I think he had a better finals than Jaylen Brown last year, for an example. But yeah, J-Dub has proved me wrong. 13 All-NBA, Second team all defense, was a first time all star this season. He's going to get paid a lot of money because he was an all NBA player. So he's going to be up and around. I think he's a really damn good player. Put in the right position, he's actually a really good player. He's still very, very young. By the way, both him and Chet are still really, really young. So this is nothing. This is not who they're going to be for the foreseeable future. They're going to develop, but I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I have my issues about that. And then obviously you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who obviously had, in my personal opinion, one of the most dominant seasons in NBA history individually. I think he pretty much achieved everything he needed to as an NBA player to claim him to be one of the most dominant NBA players in NBA history. Just a strict season, I think. Scoring title, MVP, All-Star, All-NBA first team, bordering all-defensive team. Okay? Then he goes on to win Western Conference MVP, to be an NBA championship, and then also be a Finals MVP, leading the Oklahoma City Thunder to 68 games and pretty much cruising all playoffs run. They've been the most dominant team all playoffs run. He's been the most active offensive player all playoffs run. He had this game where he had 12 assists and 1 turnover to close out this series. Like, for people that just say that Shai is a free throw merchant, that's all he does, is insane. Like, it really is insane. It is generally insane. He showcased that his play style may not be the most likable play style ever, can work to lead you to an NBA championship. Like, that kind of play style I did not think would work well. And that's like because of James Harden. But obviously James Harden, in my personal opinion, I think Shai's probably a better player. I'm not going to lie. Be quiet. I think Shai might be a better player. Because obviously the ability to be a great mid-range shooter, because he takes way more mid-range shots than James Harden. His ability to get down to the paint, more efficient than James Harden, and just getting crafty to the free throw line, which are very similar. My problem with James Harden is the consistency, especially in closeout games. Unlike Shai, who had arguably one of the better closeout games of NBA history. And I can't really think of that for a guy like James Harden all-time wise. I really can't think of that. And don't get me wrong, he went up against the Golden State Warriors. The Kevin Durant Golden State Warriors, which are the greatest team of all time still, to me. But, like, what I'm trying to say is that games against, like, the San Antonio Spurs in 2017, obviously this recent playoffs, last time the 76ers against the Celtics, stuff like that, man, he just continuously underperforms in closeout games, where I can't say the same thing with Shai, who Shai plays well in closeout games. So, it proves me that play style definitely works, for sure. And like I said before, Shai had one of the most dominant seasons in NBA history. I think he just had it. Where I would rank him, like, this is comparable to like 2000 Shaq, comparable to 2013 LeBron, compared to 1980 Michael Jordan, like 1988, 1987 Michael Jordan, 1993 Michael Jordan. This is comparable to 2016 Steph Curry. This is arguably compared to 2020 Giannis. Like, in terms of just regular season dominance, but when you include the playoffs, it's comparable to 2013 Braun again, 2000 Shaq, and 93 Jordan. It's comparable to those. It's literally compared to those. Like, he had, in my opinion, one of the most dominant seasons of all time, and he should have been unanimous MVP. The fact that Jokic got votes is actually embarrassing. I'm not going to lie. It's actually super embarrassing. And I know it doesn't really include for MVP voting, but the fact that he went on to beat him going into this championship run is really impressive. It's really impressive. This seriously reminds me a bit of, I would say, 2000 Shaq. I'm not going to, it kind of reminds me of 2000 Shaq a bit. But it's close, man. When I do my MVP ranking, this one is going to be relatively high. It's going to be relatively high. That's also just in terms of regular season dominance, but also finals MVPs. This is one of the best finals MVPs in a while. Like, we have so many good finals MVPs this decade with guys like 2020 LeBron, 2021 Giannis, 2022 Steph, even 2023 Jokic, which I think is a little bit overrated for an MVP, but finals MVP, but that's for another discussion. But it's also comparable to guys like, 2016 LeBron, 2011 Dirk Nowitzki, even like a guy like 2000 Shaq, like those are like some of the most dominant seasons of all time for finals MVPs. But, yeah, man, this Shai season has just been so impressive. It has generally been so impressive. I've been awe with him over the past 3 seasons when he actually initially broke out to being an actual superstar player in 2023. Like, I was just been awe of him. And the fact that he's been this good, which I did not even expect Shea to be this insane of a player. Like, I thought he would be a really good all-star player, but I think he'd be bordering, in my personal opinion, the best player in the league. I think he might be the best player in the league after this season. I think he kind of cemented himself as that. He won pretty much everything. He won every award. Now, I would say overall, just an individual player, I would probably say Jokic is still a better player than Shea, but I can't also ignore what Shea has done this season. It's not like Shea is far behind, but like, I would just say best players in the 2024-2025 NBA season, SGA is number one for me. Now I'll make a ranking about that. But like looking at the 2018 draft as well, I mean, Luka Doncic was obviously the big standout, being the best player in that draft. Then you also have Trae Young coming out of that draft class. People actually compared him and Luka as the two best players coming in that draft class up until 2023. But I also saw the potential in Shea after the Chris Paul season. Like, Shea showed some potential that season, but I saw the potential after the season because he was such an efficient player that can shoot the ball from mid-range, just from two-point range, really efficiently. And that was not being discussed enough. I mean, people were discussing more about Ja Morant. And Ja Morant pretty much had that claim of being the best point guard out there outside of Steph and Luka. But that's not really the case. I mean, Shea broke out in 2023, and that was before they made those acquisitions with getting Chet Holmgren. And then J-Dub was still a rookie that season. That the year that OKC finished the 10th seed and had so much potential. Like, they had so much potential. The fact that they were the 10th seed with that team is actually insane. That was a really bad team, by the way. I mean, that was pretty much Shea and J-Dub. Obviously, you had Giddey, but Giddey was not as good as he is now. But, like, you saw development. They drafted Chet Holmgren with those guys. They drafted J-Dub with the 12th pick in the draft, which that was one of the biggest steals in that draft. Chet was the second pick behind Paolo, and I thought Chet should have been the number one pick, but I mean, Paolo's not a bad player. Like, Paolo's actually a great player, but Chet's defensive impact was really impactful. And then when Chet was actually initially healthy going into the next season, the year before this season, there were a lot of comparisons between him and Victor Wembanyama as by far the two best players in this rookie class, but obviously, Wemby was just a better player. I think Wemby's just a by far better player than Chet. I think Wemby's a better defensive player, and he's by far the better offensive player. And Wemby has just more versatility, and I think he's just a more player that has way more potential than Chet. But that's not saying Chet's a bad player. Like, Chet has so much potential still on offense. He just needs to utilize that better. And I feel like after they won the championship, I have my concerns because they might have a bit of itis from being a championship where they don't really need to improve as a player. But I feel like that's going to be beneficial, I mean, if you want to stay consistent, because more teams will scheme better on you. They've seen some game plans from Indiana. They see some game plans from Denver. They see some game plans even from Minnesota to where they can contain the team. It's just that OKC has just been one of the best defensive teams of all time. The problem is the offensive consistency. You can't just over-rely on Shea. But again, J-Dub stepped up really bigly. I think J-Dub played very well this final series, and I've been so wrong about him, and I apologize about that. But, I mean, this team, man, obviously they drafted Josh Giddey, but Josh Giddey, not a bad player. He just didn't fit very well. I mean, he showcased that against the Dallas Mavericks in 2023. And people that want to bring up that only Dallas can beat this team, first of all, this is a much different team. This is a much better team than last season's team. I think they are way better offensively. I think this is a better version of Shea. I think this is a better version of J-Dub. This is a better version of Chet on the defensive end. This is a better version of just Isaiah Hartenstein. You add him on the team. I mean, you obviously have Casey Wallace, who improved well. He's a rookie that season. And then obviously the big addition of adding Alex Caruso from the Josh Giddey trade. I mean, that's just a big addition because that's a guy that you initially benched last playoff series in last season to a guy who was probably the third most impactful player, arguably the third or fourth most impactful player on this team to winning a championship. And big time trade from them. Now, I really want to discuss more about the Paul George trade. I'm probably going to make an individual video on that because I've gone back on the opinion where I think is probably the worst trade in NBA history now. And I said it initially on my Luka Doncic trade that the Luka trade is still the worst trade in NBA history, but I don't really see that anymore after they got Cooper flagged because, I mean, first off, the draft lottery is rigged as hell. But also, I mean, they still traded Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis was a top 10 player still in the league. He shows that he was still a top 10 level player in the league when he was healthy last season. But again, you still traded for Luka. This, I really can't say it's the same because, yes, Paul George came off of an MVP season in 2019. I remember that as a OKC fan at the time. I remember that PG was MVPG at the time. But he finished third in MVP. He finished third in Defensive Player of the Year. His best season by far of his career. But, like, the thing is, they lost in the first round as a 6-seeded team. You can't win a championship with Paul George being your number one option player. You can't win a championship with like that. And obviously, they needed to break it up because this core was just not going to work. I mean, the Russell Westbrook era needed to end. I don't think you can win a chip with Russ being the number one option, unfortunately. As much as I love the dude, I would have loved to see him on this team to win a championship, but you can't win a championship with him being the number one guy. That's just the notion now. I'm not saying this is a Russell Westbrook bash video. I mean, he is one of the OGs of OKC, but like they needed to make that trade. So they traded Paul George to the Los Angeles Clippers for Danilo Gallinari, who came off a really damn good season. Let me look up George trade because that is. I'm gonna pull up that they traded Danilo Gallinari, who probably had one of his better seasons in a while because he stayed healthy. They traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I did not think he would be this good at the time. I thought he had so much potential as a player. He looked big for a guard level player, but I didn't think he'd had this much potential. And they traded the 2022 first round pick, the 2024 first round pick, 2028 first round pick, 2026 first round pick, Miami 2021 first round pick, Miami 2023 first round pick lottery protected, Los Angeles Clippers 2023 first round pick rights to swap, Los Angeles Clippers 2025 first round picks rights to swap pick. Some of those draft picks turn into Jalen Williams and Casey Wallace, 2 NBA champions. So I can't ignore that. And it's not just them trading for Shai that I can't know. I know Shai is just a much better player than Paul George ever was. Like, yeah, PG had the MVP seasons, but Shai was literally the unanimous MVP this season. And then you got a guy like J-Dub who just fits so well with Shai, who just played at such an impactful level, even though he's not as good as PG was in his peak years in OKC. I still think Shai just fits so much well, and he's still so much younger. And obviously, he's going to re-sign when necessary. But again, man, that trade is just such a big time trade. I'll go more in it in a future video about it because I really want to discuss it more about it. I'm going to officially announce that as the worst trade in NBA history when I make that video. But like, yeah, man, it's still insane that they made that trade. Looking back at it, I thought I was pissed off as a fan because I should have kind of expected that PG was going to leave because there's no future with that team. But that will go down as one of the biggest wins for OKC in NBA history. Just making that trade for 2 of your most important players all playoff series. All playoffs long. We're getting J-Dub and Shai, man. And Shai, he's like, I honestly was like, on the notion that he was the 3rd best player in that draft class. I still thought he was better than Ayton. I still thought he was better than Jaren Jackson Jr., but I didn't think he was better than Trae Young and Luka at the time. But he's way better than Trae Young. Let's get out of the way. He's way better than Trae Young. I think Trae Young has... when he's put in the right position, I think Trae Young could be a better player than what he actually is right now. But the thing is that Shai just proved me wrong. That like Shai just surpassed that with pretty much the past 2 seasons of just Shai being the MVP and winning the championship. Like, and there's also debate for him being better than Luka, which it's close. It really is close. I think this season he is better than Luka Doncic. But when we terms of just overall talent ability, I think it's really damn close. I think it's really, really close. I would honestly, I don't want to do this because of recency bias, but I would honestly give the edge to Shai right now because of defense. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Luka's just a better overall playmaker, obviously. I think Luka and Shai are very similar in terms of scoring ability. I think I would give the edge to Luka a little bit because I think Luka's a little bit more crafty with his gravity. It's really close between those two. But like, I can't ignore what Luka did last season. I think Luka should have been MVP last season. But And Luka obviously carried a much worse team to the NBA Finals compared to Shea. But and obviously Luka beat Shea last season. But honestly, I think OKC just played bad, and Josh Giddey sucked last season. But I mean, it was really close. But it's close between those two. But yeah, man, that trade. And now we're in terms of this OKC team as a whole, because they are one of the youngest. They are the youngest team ever to win a championship. And it's insane. First of all, that's really insane that you're the youngest team with that many draft picks still, and you won the NBA championship with your main guys outside of SGA and probably Caruso and Hardenstein all on rookie contracts. They're all on rookie contracts, and they won a championship in their third season together or second season together with just Chet being there. But they're gonna be a dynasty in the making. I said this about the Boston Celtics last season, and the Celtics, I felt like they could repeat as champs, but also OKC was still the number one seed last season in the Western Conference, and they had so much potential, or just the inexperience going into that. But like, this is different, man, because OKC still has their guys locked in on rookie contracts. So you have that going on. You have the MVP on your side, and the roster just fits so well. You re-sign Caruso. You have a hard sign for next season. You have obviously J-Dub and Chet. You have Case and Wallace. You have those guys, and you still have a lot of draft picks on your hand. So you can get another guy that can fit well with this core. Now, I'm not saying go get a superstar level player. I thought that if they lost the series, I was going to say, yeah, go trade for a superstar level player. You might have to trade away Chet or J-Dub. But I don't think they need to anymore, because obviously they're the champs, but also it's like those guys proving that they're here now. I mean, they forced these guys to 7 games, and if they won or lost, I mean, it would have been embarrassing if they lost, but like, they still won a championship, so there's no point in trading those guys away. But they still have so many picks. They're gonna be here, man. They're gonna be back next season, if barring injuries, because the last few champs post. I mean, the 2019 Raptors, they lost Kawhi. 2020 Lakers, they got hit with injuries next season. Bucks got hit with injuries. Warriors got hit with injuries a bit, and just chemistry just was so much worse next season. Nuggets, I mean, their run is a little bit overrated a bit. I will make that for when I do my championship rankings team, but the run is a little overrated, but like, they played the best season that they've seen. I mean, them and OKC, but like, they lost guys as well. They lost Bruce Brown, but like, they played Minnesota, who just was their worst matchup by far. And then the Celtics, they got hit with the Jason Tatum injury. Even before then, like, the Knicks are the best team they've seen, even prior to last season's championship run. I think their run is also a bit overrated as well, even though they showcased their dominance. This OKC team, like, it's different, because obviously Memphis, that was kind of a wash, but obviously the Nuggets took them to 7 games, and I will give them the adversity edge because they were down 2-1 going in the road to Game 4 in Denver, Colorado. They got that game. Game 5 was a big game from SGA. I remember that game. Game 6 they lost, and then they took it to Game 7, they won. And then the Wolves series, who took out the Warriors and the Lakers as the 6th seed, dominated them in 5 games. And then this Pacers team, who took out the Cavs, the 60-win Cavs team, took out the Knicks, who took out the defending champs, and took out the Bucks with Giannis, forced this team to 7 games, and they still won. But also, I'm not really sure what I really rank this team still. I think they're probably the best team we've gotten in a pretty long time in terms of just being a champion. I know a lot of people don't really like this team because of, some of the players. They don't really like Chet Holmgren for some reason. They don't like J-Dub for some reason. They don't even like Shea for some reason. But that's just kids out there, man. But actually, I don't know, man. They are better than recent champs. They are better than the Nuggets. I think they're better than the Warriors. I think they're better than the Bucks. They're better than the Lakers. Don't want my brother to hear that. They're better than the Lakers. I think they're better than the Lakers. But yeah, man, they are the 2025 NBA champs, and prayers to Tyrese, man. I hope he's actually. I don't think he's gonna play next season. We have 3 Achilles injuries we've had 3 Achilles injuries the past postseason with Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, and Tyrese Halliburton, all in the Eastern Conference, by the way, which shows that conference is absolutely cursed. But which is funny, they all were number 0 and they all tore their Achilles in the playoffs. But that's insane. That is insane. I know a lot of people want to say the NBA needs to reduce the amount of games. I don't think so. I think they just need to expand the season a little bit and just lessen back-to-backs, because back-to-backs are just the main thing. No players get rest at all. And also, like, some of the playoff series, I mean, especially in the conference finals and the second round, there's literally traveling every other day is, I mean, I think Aaron Gordon mentioned it in a post-game press conference where, like, the thing about traveling, time zone differences, especially in the Western Conference, like time zones, you're traveling different time zones, and your body needs rest to adjust to that time zone. So I say probably expand it a little bit more and probably have a shorter, just a tad shorter off season. But I don't know. I don't think they're gonna do that. But like, that's just the injuries happen. I know people say just reduce the games, but I don't think so. I don't think they need to reduce the games. I just think they need to make less back-to-backs, because back-to-backs are just actually insane, especially if you're traveling. I remember some Western Conference teams, especially if you're in the West. Like the East, it's not that bad because you're all pretty much in the same time zone, except for the Bucks and the Bulls. But like the West, you're literally going to the Central Standard Time zone. It's going to the Mountain Standard Time Zone area, and then you go into the Pacific area. Like, there have been times where I've seen some back-to-back teams play back-to-backs where it's like, you're in the Eastern Conference time zone area, and then you just fly from, like, I don't know, Philadelphia to Oklahoma City, and that's a pretty far flight in my personal opinion. I think it's a really damn far flight. There are some Western Conference teams that have to travel 4 hours to Memphis from the Pacific Standard Time area for a playoff series, and that's just such a bad part of your body. You need to adjust to that. So I don't know, man. I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, it is technically going to be a new era next season where no more TNT. TNT is done. I mean, we're still going to have ABC and ESPN, unfortunately, but like, they're going to have some changes, obviously. But we're also going to get NBC and Prime next season, which I am super excited. And I'm excited for this offseason. I mean, we started off with the Kevin Durant trade and the Desmond Bain trade, which I'll probably make videos for that probably for tomorrow or the next day. I'll see about that. But yeah, man. Congrats to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Congrats to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The 2025 NBA champions belong to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I cannot believe I'm saying this in 2025, but that's the thing now. That's official. It is official now. Congrats to them. And who knows what the 2026 champs will be? Who knows, man? The league is incredibly wide open, and there's not been a repeat champ since the 2018 Golden State Warriors, which just shows how talented this league is. So I will not believe the notion of team going back to back, but this OKC team, they're not going to be far behind. They're going to probably win another champion in the next 2 or 3 years, but we'll see, man. This is a dynasty in the making. I think it is a dynasty in the making, and great final series. Unfortunately, the Game 7 was kind of underwhelming in terms of entertainment because of the Tyrese Halliburton injury. I think that the whole game just completely tainted my opinion of this series because of that injury, where we had such an all-time first great 6 games, and then that injury happened in Game 7, which it started off really well. And don't get me wrong, the first 2 quarters of Game 7 were actually really damn good. But like, also at the same time, it's like it would have been even better if Indiana's Pacers Tyrese Halliburton was actually playing this game. But injuries, man. Injuries are so tough. But yeah, like I said before, prayers to him, and congrats to OKC for winning the 2025 NBA championships. And that's going to be it for 2025 NBA coverage. And we're moving on to the offseason now and getting ready for the 2026 season, which won't start until October. So a lot of offseason coverage is going to happen. A lot of rankings will happen as well. Free agency coverage will start probably in July. And we'll do some more stuff out there on this channel. But yeah, take care, guys.